we are going to talk about some of the scenarios or use cases where we can effectively use automated ranking tool and quickly analyze the patterns, both saving time and budget. So okay, so let's take this example to begin with. So for example, we have been working with a lot of corporates, and generally their problem statement is that we have to start a licensing campaign and we have a particular target in mind, or generally sometimes they have a part of the portfolio which is no longer being used by them in terms of the fact that they don't have any running product line that is being protected by those patents. So they also want to generate some revenue streams out of it. So I mean, we can use the automated ranking tool to quickly run through these portfolio set and identify some gems out of them which can drive our licensing campaigns. So generally, when we talk about corporates, they have this internal tagging of the portfolio, where you would see that they have the patent set and they have created those technological tags at level 1, 2, 3, and accordingly they know that these are the core patents which directly protect their products, and these are the other technological patents which they no longer use. So for example, say a company is operating in the domain of processor and memory, and say they want to go against their competitors, so they directly know that these are the patterns from their portfolio which they can use and do the mining exercise, identify some gems which can be applicable to those competitors, and accordingly generate charts and get into the licensing deals. And otherwise, if you look at this patent which is related to payment processing, for that company it might not be relevant at this date, but what they can do is they can take this pattern and similar patterns related to payment technology, and also some other patterns which are related to, say, payment backend, for example servers, networking, and other aspects of the payment network, and they can use those patterns to form a pattern set and run the similar exercise like Dhananjay discussed, how we can mine the patterns and use the automated ranking tool. So just to take you through the process here, let me just scroll the screen a bit. So if you look at this methodology, so I mean, this is something that we have created from experience of over hundreds of projects, like how to effectively mine patterns from a bigger pattern set. So say we have some identification of the pattern set to begin with. Say we have already identified using the technological tags, or say we have already identified that these 4 patents are due to their payment fees, and if we can analyze some gems and identify which patents to, I mean, pay the fees for and which not to renew, we can do that kind of analysis also using the automated ranking tool. For this example, I have considered, say we have a target company in mind. So how do we identify patents in our portfolio quickly, and I mean without picking a hole in our pockets? How can we do that? So say we have a target company in mind. We know that these are the 2 products A and B which are generating the most revenue for this company. We analyze those products, we identify the key features of these products, then we can use I mean patent tools to identify some class codes, and then we can formulate such strategies to identify the patent set from our portfolio which would be applicable to these 2 products A and B. So say there were like 10,000 patents to begin with, and we then did some keyword searching, or say some class-based searching to identify, say, a patent set of 1,000 patents which are relevant to the domain, but it might not be relevant to the product directly. So how do we analyze these 1,000 patents and then identify like the top drivers or the deal drivers for the licensing campaign, or the say the patent sales activity? So here what we can do is, for example, if we identified the patent set to be of around 1,000 patents, we can directly run that through the automated ranking tool and use different parameters. Now, like Dhananjay has already mentioned a couple of parameters that you can use, for example, the forward citation count, pending live, claim length, claim count, family size, and etc. etc. But the most important factor here could be the forward citation count and the count of specific target assignee that we have in mind in the forward citation. So we can introduce a new factor and accordingly assign a weight to that particular factor, which defines how many times the target assignee has cited this patent in their patent, or how many times the examiner has used this patent in a prosecution history for the patent of the target assignee. So that sort of parameters we can introduce in the automated ranking tool to customize it as per our needs. And again, for example, say we rank the 1000 patents, we know that the patents at the top means that they are either having high forward citation count, or they are having at least one or two references to the patents of the assignee in our mind, and accordingly we can prioritize those patterns to begin with. So if you look at this yellow box, I have said that we should pick the first batch of 100 patents because these are those patents which have high probability of being infringed. So I mean, just to save some time and cost, so for example, we can begin the manual analysis of these 100 patents if the budget and the time allows that. But again, if the time and budget is not allowing that, what we can do is in the manual analysis step, we can first do the T ranking. So T ranking is, I mean, it's a technological ranking. So what we do in the T ranking is we quickly screen through the patents to identify patents which have broad claims and have an easy identification for those claimed features. So basically we rank the patents as T1, T2, and T3 based on their claim scope, whether it's broad or narrow, and the ease of identification. Whether we can easily prove the infringement from online literature, whether we can prove the infringement from the product guides and user guides, and whether we would need RE, or whether we would need to get hands on to the product to test it. So these are the things that we can keep in mind and do a quick T ranking, which won't take like 10 to 15 minutes based on your experience with the domain. We can quickly T rank the patents, and so the T1 patents are those patents which generally have broad claims and also have ease of identification. So we can pick those T1 patents and directly move to the detailed infringement analysis for these patents. So from 1000 patents, we picked 100 patents, then we jumped to like 20-25 patents for which we are doing the detailed analysis. So instead of doing the detailed analysis of all the patents, we have now come down to like 20 to 25 patents, and we can then identify infringement and use that for evidence of use charting and negotiations.